throw away because my wife knows my main. Ages: me, 34M. Wife, 32F. Daughter, 5F. Location: a mid-sized suburb somewhere between a Costco and a cornfield. I thought I bought my wife a simple fitness tracker. What I really bought was an error message that peeled the paint off our marriage. One confetti animation, one ring clip, one paper receipt, and suddenly I'm the IT department for a betrayal I didn't know I was troubleshooting. If you ever want to test the integrity of your marriage, buy your spouse a $50 tracker from a lightning deal at 107 a.m. Then hand it over with a kiss and exactly zero suspicion. That was me, watching a Bluetooth icon blink like a heartbeat and feeling the first hairline crack slide across my life. It started with the smallest thing, the sort of detail that doesn't sound like a clue until it's Exhibit A, our dishwasher latch. It had been sticking for weeks and I kept promising I'd fix it when work chilled out. Haley, my wife, called it not a biggie. And that phrase became the background music for everything. Missing receipts, late nights, the peppermint breath that made no sense in July. 2 nights before the bottom dropped out, the latch finally snapped. I was elbow deep in suds while our daughter built a foam kingdom, and Haley was out catching up with Maya from the PDA at a bar that hosts trivia and deals in cheap wine. I told myself we were fine, that married life is just errands with a soundtrack, and that the hum of a dishwasher at 2 a.m. is a lullaby for functioning adults. I bought the tracker because Haley said she wanted to get serious about running again, and because I'm a sucker for any day that promises to be a new January. I unboxed it like a dad on Christmas morning. Haley laughed when the manual fell apart in my hands and called me cute in a way that still blew up my chest after 6 years. I paired the app, named the device Haley's Meteor, and when the phone asked for her emergency contact, she rattled off my number like it was carved inside her mouth. She buckled the band on her left wrist and kissed my temple. Peppermint. She was late. Could I finish setup? Of course. I was proud to be trusted with small things that felt like they added up to the big thing. The band wouldn't sync. The Bluetooth spun. I restarted the app. The tracker blinked. At 9:32 p.m. confetti finally popped on my screen and a map appeared with a pulsing dot. The dot wasn't at Maya's house. It was 3 miles away at a sports bar with a neon sign loud enough to sunburn. I zoomed in, watched the dot wobble near a cluster of cars and go still. I turned off location sharing because you do not become the guy who watches his wife's wrist in real time. I set the phone down like it was hot. I picked it up again. By 10:12, I had convinced myself Maya must live near the bar or the app was buggy. At 10:40, the Ring doorbell pinged. Expecting the porch coyote, I saw Haley step into frame, check her phone, pull open the door, freeze, listen, then tug at the band. She took it off, set it on the porch table like it might explode, picked it back up, looked around, lifted the doormat, tucked it under, and left. I watched the clip 3 times. Each time my ribs tried to learn a new language. Infidelity math is ugly. You start substituting unknowns for hours and carrying the one across nights that used to feel normal. I told myself to be measured, to wait for proof, then drove to the bar with hands that didn't feel like mine. The patio glowed like an aquarium. I didn't go in. I parked across from a closed nail salon and waited. At midnight, as a mist began to purl on my windshield, Haley walked out with a man. Not an obvious cliché. Navy quarter zip. Posture of a budget meeting. He touched the small of her back the way men touch women they've practiced touching. She tilted her face up and smiled a honeymoon smile I hadn't seen since she thought my puns were charming. They didn't kiss. They didn't have to. The edges of my life were already unspooling. I went home and became an archivist of my own existence. Receipts. Spam. Calendar crumbs. A $47 charge at a boutique hotel on a day she'd been at a baby shower. A Venmo to Kenny cocktail glass with the note, "For trivia champ, Haley doesn't know any Kennys. Haley doesn't use martini emojis. Our daughter calls them tiny happy bananas and prefers the sunglasses face." At 2:11 a.m. I went outside, lifted the doormat, and pocketed the tracker. It had a scuffed corner from the brick step, like it had tried to tell me the truth and bruised itself against our house. I did not stage a detective reveal over breakfast. I made waffles. Haley came down in a college sweatshirt. Our daughter stuck a blueberry to her forehead and announced she was a unicorn. I asked how Maya was. Good, she said. Going through it. Did you drop by her house? Yeah, for a bit. The ring caught the coyote again, I said. Maybe I'll move the mat. She looked at me like a magician was about to pull her card from my ear. Why move the mat? Ants, I said, then swallowed a bowling ball and asked why her tracker was under it. She said it kept disconnecting and she didn't want to lose it at Maya's. It disconnected because it was 3 miles away at a bar, I said. I know because I set it up. I saw you tuck it under the mat. Our daughter shouted about unicorns. Haley scraped her chair, said we'd be late for school, that we'd talk later. That's how I learned there are 2 marital silences, the blanket kind and the parking garage ledge kind. In the pickup line behind the brick library, I did what men in movies do before doing something dumb. I scrolled tagged photos. Haley, white tee, the lost scarf, grinning with a team named the Paying Attention is Free Club, quarter zip with his arm around her. Caption: back-to-back trivia champs. Hashtag Kenny knows. Kenny, martini emoji Kenny. My vision pinwheeled to black. I drove home 5 under the limit, as if civility could buy time. The American dream is bullet points, mortgage, 401k, daycare auto pay, a car seat you can install faster than a pit crew, and also a crack-labeled life is busy. Bank statements are a diary if you're brave enough to read them as such. Coffee Mondays, gas Fridays, daycare Thursdays, then hotel, $47, $81, $119 over 6 weeks. All on PDA or Maya nights. Maybe I should have called a lawyer right there. I called Ben, the friend who shows up with a drill and a 6-pack and never makes you ask twice. He's divorced, and I'd always pitted him the way married people do when we assume vows are armor. I played him the ring clip in my truck. He slid me a napkin with a therapist's number and said I needed someone who wasn't him or my dishwasher. He gave me a grim checklist: lawyer, doctor, therapist, friend, couch if needed, evidence, in that order. Act like the house is on fire and hope it isn't. The lawyer had a good podcast voice and gold scales on her desk. No fault state. Equitable distribution. Best interests of the child. Document everything. When you confront, do it somewhere you can leave. Not at home. Don't threaten. Don't call the other guy. And for the love of all that is sane, don't post on Facebook. Reddit? She didn't say. The doctor was fluorescent lights and laminated posters and me peeing in a cup for safety, not romance. The nurse asked if I felt safe at home. I said I didn't know. She nodded like she hears that all day. I picked the brick library lot for round 2 because I hoped the smell of paperbacks would shame us into honesty. I told Haley about the bar, Kenny, the hotels, the doormat. I said I wasn't yelling, just asking for the truth. She looked small behind the wheel and said it wasn't like that. How was it, then? It started at trivia. He's on Maya's husband's team. It was stupid. She wanted to feel like she existed outside of laundry. Did he know she's married? He's married, too, separated. Complicated. Was she in love? She didn't know. Could she be done? She could be. I said I didn't want to be a prison warden or a doormat. If she wanted the marriage, then transparency, a written timeline, individual therapy for both of us, a no-contact message we drafted together, and a separation plan if anything broke. She cried. I kept my hands on the wheel. She said she wasn't the villain. I said maybe we're both villain and victim, but only one of us cheated. No contact lasted 46 hours. The tracker logged a late-night run from nowhere near home. Even with notifications off, your body knows. I typed I can't do this and dropped my ring in the dish with the Lego swords. At 10:03, the back door opened. She said she slipped, called him, met at the park to say goodbye. She was going to tell me. I said that's a date with extra steps. She said she wanted to fix this, that she loved me, that I was her family. I said I'm your husband, not your comfort animal. She flinched like words can bruise. Ben told me to write what I needed. I wrote it in a notebook that still smelled like Target. Full transparency on devices and locations, a written timeline of the affair so I could stop tripping on landmines, therapy for both of us, an immediate no-contact message we craft together, and a separation plan if any of it cracked. She read it and said the timeline was cruel, like tattooing her mistakes. I said I was tired of stepping on surprises. She wrote it anyway. It was uglier than I wanted and less cinematic than I feared. Lattes, trivial jokes, a hotel lobby with green apples in a bowl, a text that said I can't stop thinking about you, a photo of our daughter in sunglasses with a caption about what an amazing mom she is. Fairs aren't just sex. They are alternate universes built out of compliments and omissions. I tried to gray rock what didn't deserve my electricity. I gray rocked the version of my wife who wanted my rage to prove I cared. I did not gray rock my kid. I did the dishes. I placed the tracker on its charger like a fragile animal we were rehabilitating. Haley went to therapy. So did I. My therapist asked whether I wanted to reconcile or detach, and I said yes. A Gmail from Kenny arrived like a fly in soup. He was sorry. Feelings are messy. Haley is a good person who got lost. He'd honor no contact if that's the path we choose. He wrote like someone rehearsing. I drafted 6 replies and sent none. Lawyer said ignore. Therapist said grieve the marriage you thought you had. For a week I walked through my house like a museum of a life I couldn't trust. I found evidence where there wasn't any and missed it where there was. The row of her shoes, the peppermint schnapps bottle behind the cookbooks, the hotel pen in the junk drawer. Our daughter asked why Mommy cried in the garage. Haley said big feelings. We built a blanket fort and named it the Department of Big Feelings. Our kid handed us flashlight forms. Check this box if you need a hug. I checked it. Haley did too. We slept in separate rooms. I learned the guest room's night sounds. The too loud clock, the streetlight sliver on the ceiling. My finger ached where the ring wasn't, so I put it back on to stop the phantom pain, not as a promise. No contact lasted 3 weeks that time, long enough to hope, short enough to fail. The tracker showed a run that started nowhere near home. I printed the route and magneted it to the fridge with Idaho. She found it reaching for milk and sat on the floor with the door open, knees lit like a stage. I don't know how to stop, she said. Then I have to, I said. We filed a separation light through the lawyer. Alternating days, shared dinners with our daughter, money in a spreadsheet that made me seasick. Kindness is policy because kindness is cheaper than new dishes. I told my parents the short version. My mom promised prayers. My dad showed up with a screwdriver and fixed the dishwasher because land-drowning dads do what they can. Ben made a latches metaphor joke and then apologized for making me laugh. There were shocks I didn't expect. Missing her pillow arrangements that made sense only to her. Feeling relief when I had proof, the way a stomach bug breaks at 3 a.m. Noticing how much heavier our daughter's hand felt in mine, like she was anchoring me to the present to keep me from floating into hypotheticals. Being angry at myself for playing clown instead of asking questions, for assuming loyalty is automatic once you say words under an arbor. Laughing again when my daughter crowned herself queen of jewelry with 2 Lego swords in the ring dish. Where we are, for now. Therapy twice a week for her and once for me, a mediator on speed dial, a ghost named Kenny in the rearview, and a tracker lying on the counter like an artifact from a civilization that worshipped data. We talk. We don't touch. We hug when our daughter watches, because she deserves a world where grown-ups can share a room without flinching. I sleep in the guest room. The dishwasher latch clicks like a heartbeat when it closes. I don't know if we reconcile. I don't know if 6 months from now I'll be posting an update that starts with "we're okay." I do know the Bluetooth icon still blinks sometimes when I walk past the counter, and my chest answers like a muscle remembering a sprint. Healing isn't a straight run. It's looping a cul-de-sac until one driveway feels like home. If you're reading this and thinking about becoming someone else's adrenaline, don't. It's counterfeit. The fallout is real. You think you're starring in a moody indie. You're a subplot in a kid's memory of when the house went quiet. I'm gonna keep showing up for the little person who hands me a form in a blanket fort. I'm gonna fix latches before they snap. I'm gonna make waffles. I'm gonna let the dishwasher hum at 2 a.m. Because sometimes white noise is the only thing that sounds like hope. And because I finally understand that trust isn't the confetti animation that pops when a device connects. It's the quiet, boring, daily sync that no one claps for until it stops. 2 days later, the wrinkle arrived as a chirpy HOA message that used 3 exclamation points and the phrase, support our community partners. The partner? The bar. Photo of the neon sign, coupon for trivia night, a line about a family-friendly patio that made my teeth itch. The sender was our HOA vice president, a man named Curtis who looks like a golf shirt grown sentient. I was halfway to deleting it when I noticed the bar owner tagged in the comments. Same last name as Curtis. Brother-in-law. Suddenly the HOA wasn't just a committee with opinions about mailbox colors. It was a cousin to my problem, sharing a last name and a megaphone. In the neighborhood group chat, someone asked if trivia nights were getting too rowdy. The bar owner replied with a winky emoji and a note about passionate patrons. Curtis chimed in with, "Let's keep it positive." That phrase should come with a warning label. Positivity is where accountability goes to take a nap. I typed nothing and learned to read silence like it was a weather report. Maya texted me that week, a message with the careful punctuation of someone trying not to step on landmines. "Hey, are you okay? Haley seems off." I stared at the 3 dots until they gave up. I told her we were taking space and asked if she'd known about Kenny. She said she'd known he existed and that he was around trivia, then apologized for not saying anything because she assumed I knew. People assume you know your own life. It's not a bad assumption until it is. Therapy grew teeth. My therapist, who wears cardigans that look like they have tenure, asked if I'd be okay if the marriage ended. I said I didn't want it to, and she said that wasn't the question. I asked her if there was a version where this pain was useful. She said pain is data, not destiny. I wrote that down and underlined it until the page almost tore. Haley's therapist gave her homework that involved writing the story of the affair from start to finish and bringing me the unpretty parts. We sat at the kitchen table, 2 teenagers cramming for the worst exam, and workshopped a no-contact text. "This was wrong. I'm choosing my marriage. Do not contact me again." She sent it. Kenny replied the way men like that reply. Noble tone, watery boundaries, a paragraph about respect that didn't contain the word stop. She blocked him. I blocked him. Then I ferreted a spare phone out of a drawer, powered it on, and felt the spike of adrenaline when an unknown number lit up. She blocked that too. The quiet that followed felt like when the power goes out at night and every machine in your house reveals how much noise it's been making. We tried routines because routines are the scaffolding you climb when the building is condemned. Mornings became a choreography of cereal bowls and lunch boxes and pretending we were normal. Evenings were separate shows. On her days, Haley cooked intricate meals with sauces that took babysitter money and groceries. On mine, I stuck to the 3 food groups: sheet pan, skillet, and air fryer. Our daughter didn't care. She cared about sprinkles and whether the cartoon pig learned to share. One Saturday, the HOA held a summer social at the park. There was a bounce house and an ice cream truck and a sign-in table staffed by Curtis, who has the kind of handshake that tries to pick a fight. The bar supplied beer in plastic cups. Haley suggested we both go because couples who co-parent politely at public events give the world hope. So we stood under a tent and tried to look like a brochure. Curtis recognized Haley from some committee. He asked if we'd been to the bar on trivia night and I said not lately. He said Kenny runs it sometimes, then froze when he saw my face perform a small weather event. We left with a balloon that immediately escaped the car and a daughter who watched it float into a sky that did not care about our metaphors. That night, I dreamed I was at trivia. The categories were trust, timing, and things you should have fixed sooner. Every question was multiple choice and every answer was D, none of the above. The doctor called with results clean. I celebrated like I'd won a raffle I never wanted a ticket for. I texted Haley the news, and she sent back a string of crying emojis and the words, "Thank you." I didn't know how to receive gratitude for the absence of collateral damage, so I put my phone face down and alphabetized spices until the world stopped tilting. Kenny's almost ex-wife found me next. Her name is Jo, and she emailed from a work account with the subject line, "A confusing courtesy." She said she'd seen messages on a shared tablet, that she wasn't trying to blow up my life, that hers was already confetti, that she thought I should know he was not separated so much as auditioning separations. She asked if I wanted screenshots. I stared at the ceiling and tried to imagine any version where receiving screenshots made me a better father. I said no, thanked her, and wished her luck in escaping the gravity well. That is a charming man who wants to be a lesson. She sent a smiley that looked like a grimace even in font form. If this were a movie, this is the part where I'd rage clean the garage or throw a plate. Instead, I took our daughter to a Saturday morning soccer game where 6 kids chased one ball, and 1 kid picked daisies and renamed them. Haley showed up late with orange slices and a look that said she'd been crying. We stood shoulder to shoulder and cheered for every kid, even when ours forgot the direction of the goal and celebrated a steal like she'd cured something. Post-game, Haley asked if we could talk without making plans. We drove to a big box parking lot where conversations go when they don't deserve witnesses. She said she missed me. I said she missed the version of me that didn't know things. She said she missed us. I said I didn't know who that was. She said she wanted to earn back trust. I said I didn't know what shape that was anymore. We sat in the idling air conditioning and let the car decide when to cycle the fan. Haley's therapist introduced the concept of a full disclosure session. Structured, witnessed, no trickle truth. My lawyer liked the word structured. I asked what came after. The answer was recovery or divorce, both paved with smaller rocks. Weekly meetings, polygraph if we wanted to go full daytime TV, guardrails for travel, a plan for triggers as mundane as peppermint in a grocery aisle. I nodded like a student. Haley asked if I'd take a polygraph too, to prove I hadn't been hiding my own parallel universe. I said I would. We scheduled the disclosure. The week leading up to it tasted like pennies. On the day, we sat on 2 couches the color of oatmeal while 2 therapists took notes on clipboards like they were judging a debate. Haley read. It had dates, times, places, who initiated, who paid, who texted, who said what when. It had a sentence about the first time she wanted to stop and a paragraph about why she didn't. It had a line about me. He is kind, and I resented that he made it look easy. I didn't know what to do with that sentence except write it down and circle it. When she finished, the clock said we had 12 minutes left, which felt like a prank. My therapist asked how I felt. I said like I was getting the keys to a house after a fire. Grateful there's a door left, scared of what it smells like inside. We took a walk instead of dinner. The sun was unkind. We passed a couple arguing about paint colors and a teenager practicing ollies and a dog that had no idea that leashes are metaphors. Haley asked what I needed now. I said I needed a season where my body stopped bracing. She said she could do that. I said I'd seen her say she could do things before. She nodded and didn't argue, which was new. Life rudely kept happening. The school announced a fundraiser hosted at the bar. I wanted to set the invitation on fire. Instead, I emailed the PTA president with a methodical level of calm and suggested a venue without sticky floors. She wrote back that the bar owner was a big donor and we should be grateful. I ignored the urge to define gratitude for her and took our daughter to the park where the slides don't smell like IPA. Haley volunteered at the fundraiser anyway because we are all contradictions if you corner us in the right light. I didn't go. She texted me a photo of a raffle basket she'd assembled with a gift card and a plant that looked already tired. In the background, Kenny wasn't present, but his absence had a shape. Ben started inviting me to do things that didn't involve my house. We went to a baseball game and developed opinions about a bullpen we hadn't earned. We ate a hot dog that tasted like nostalgia and relief. He said divorce wasn't failure. It was a result. I said that sounded like something a man with a boat says. He said he wishes he'd had the courage to be decisive sooner. On the train home, we watched 2 teenagers hold hands like a secret, and I tried not to hate them for not knowing how lucky they were. One evening, Haley surprised me by asking if I wanted to run. I wanted to say no on principle. I said yes because my body had been sitting with feelings like a job. We laced up and jogged the slowest mile in suburban history. 2 cul-de-sacs cheered us with wind chimes. The tracker on her wrist beeped. She took it off and handed it to me without a speech. I wore it. It recorded our pace like it didn't know the story. We ran in silence that wasn't the parking garage kind. When we got home, our daughter clapped like we'd returned from the Olympics and handed us Dixie cups of water with the gravity of a nurse. We made it 49 days without a breach. Then came a Saturday with the weather of regret and the smell of cut grass. The tracker showed a workout in a zip code we do not live in. My stomach did the quiet descent of a trapped elevator. I waited on the porch, Not to ambush her, but because the house felt like a room where someone had been smoking. When she returned, I asked where she'd gone. She said the farmer's market. I asked which one. She named one near the zip code. I asked what she'd bought. Tomatoes, she said, and held up a bag of peaches. She stared at the bag like it had betrayed her with stone fruit. We didn't fight. We unspooled. She sat on the steps. I stood. The words between us built a polite picket fence. She said she'd run into a friend. I said I didn't care which friend. She said she'd wanted to see if she could see him and not feel anything. A stress test with human hearts as the treadmill. I said the experiment's results were irrelevant. She said she didn't know why she keeps touching the stove. I said I was done being burned. We triggered the separation plan. Haley moved into a small apartment with laminate floors that look like wood if you squint. We bought 2 of everything that matters to a 5-year-old. Toothbrushes, stuffed animals, 2 copies of the same bedtime book so neither house feels like the discount version. We made a calendar that gives our daughter a red for mom days and a blue for dad days. She put stickers on all the Fridays because she likes the letter F. People tell you to take the high road. They don't tell you it's lonely and has fewer gas stations. I told as few people as necessary. My mom sent Tupperware and unsolicited hymns. My dad sent YouTube videos about caulking. Ben sent memes. Joe sent a final email that said she'd filed. I didn't reply. I understood the impulse to declare the end of a chapter even when the book keeps going. The first holiday apart hit like a pothole we all saw and couldn't avoid. We split Thanksgiving by hours, not days. Morning parade and cinnamon rolls at my house, turkey and extended family noise at hers. I taught our daughter to make whipped cream in a jar, and we shook it until our arms hurt and then laughed about how it still tasted like magic. I said grace, and it sounded like a voicemail to a number that doesn't pick up anymore. Later, when I dropped her at Haley's, the apartment smelled like sage and effort. Haley wore an apron I'd bought her and eyes I didn't recognize. I left before the doorway made us both say sorry for nothing in particular. Lawyers turned our feelings into bullet points. Equitable distribution, parenting plan, right of first refusal, holiday rotation, who keeps the vinyl collection, who keeps the dog we don't have. We met at a mediation table with coffee in cups so thin you could see your future through them. The mediator had eyebrows that inspired confidence. She said the goal was a settlement that was fair when everyone in the room feels a little bit cheated. I said I was qualified. Haley laughed in a way that was not unkind. We signed things. We initialed things. We put our names at the bottom of paragraphs that sounded like they were written for reasonable strangers. Then we went to the parking lot and stood by our cars like coworkers after a long offsite. I tried dating for a minute. The apps felt like a store I wasn't ready to shop in. I wrote a bio that made me sound like an HR-approved golden retriever. Dad, decent cook, knows how to fix a dishwasher latch. I unmatched with women who said good vibes only because I have, frankly, a full spectrum. I had one coffee with a person who wore a hat indoors and told me I had healed energy. I went home and deleted everything and read 3 chapters of the bedtime book aloud to a small audience who fell asleep on page 2. At some point, the house stopped feeling like our house and started feeling like my house where my daughter also lives. I painted a wall a color that would have started an argument last year. I moved the couch in a way that pleased no one but me. I hung the kids' drawings on the fridge with Idaho and 4 other states we haven't visited yet. I learned that when you microwave leftovers at midnight, the light from the door can make a kitchen into a small cathedral. The tracker lives in my drawer now. Sometimes I wear it on runs where I name the cul-de-sacs after feelings. Acceptance Court, Anger Way, Bargaining Lane, Depression Loop, and a dead end called Hope. It buzzes when I hit a mile and I think about all the ways bodies tell the truth even when we don't. Spring arrived like an apology. The bar changed owners, announced in a post with balloons and a caption about fresh starts. Curtis stepped down from the HOA to spend more time with his patio. The PDA held a fundraiser at the library, which is how I found myself buying a pan of brownies from a 2nd grader who negotiated like she had a law degree. Haley and I made small talk that didn't taste like metal. She told me her therapist said she had done the equivalent of breaking both legs and then learning to walk. I told her mine said healing looks like the boring choice repeated. We nodded like diplomats. Our daughter asked if we could all go for ice cream, and we did, because sometimes you can. People ask for a happy ending. I don't think that's what this is. It's a clean one. The divorce was final on a Tuesday at 9:18 a.m. I was on hold with the internet company when the email arrived. I stared at the PDF like it would blink. I texted Haley a period because there wasn't a word small enough. She replied with a heart and a thank you and an I'm sorry that didn't fix anything but didn't hurt either. That night, the dishwasher hummed at 2 a.m. because I'd set delay start and forgotten. I lay in bed and listened to it work through its cycle, a machine designed to clean what's left after people use things to feed themselves. If you're still reading because you're where I was, standing on the porch, holding a scuffed piece of plastic that suddenly feels like a detonator. Here's what I wish someone had told me. Your life isn't over. It's getting specific. Love is not a vibe. It's behaviors, tracked in boring data your heart keeps whether you wear a band or not. Forgiveness is not an emotion. It's a policy you can set and revisit. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks you choose, and sometimes you hand someone a key and sometimes you don't. And the Bluetooth icon? Let it blink. It's just a light. I still make waffles on Sunday. Our daughter still laughs when blueberries stick to her forehead. Haley and I still text about dentist appointments and lost library books and the kind of emergencies that fit in a photo. We are not friends. We are not enemies. We are parents who once were everything else. Some nights the house is so quiet I can hear the ice maker sneeze. Some mornings I run until the cul-de-sacs repeat like a playlist. When I get home, I close the dishwasher with a latch that works, and for reasons I can't fully explain, that sound still feels like hope.